If you subscribe to my channel because of my girly doll media, hi, this literally was a Bachelor review channel until March when we went into off season. I had so much fun making doll content, and I actually saw some growth in making doll content that I felt a little weird going back to the Bachelor content, and I didn't particularly want to I didn't want to ostracize some people, because I am aware that the Bachelor is kind of its own beast, and it has a lot of baggage attached to it that is not super duper inclusionary of weird thoughts like doll culture is, and specifically nostalgia. But I'm still a thinking, breathing person who watches The Bachelor, and I'm still watching The Bachelor. I still take notes every week. I'm just not going to be doing any of the week-to-week recaps. I think there are much better recap channels. Fantake, I think podcasts in the longer format in Gore, Game of Roses is also much better than what I was doing. And I just and as far as my analytics go, you guys and YouTube likes more when, instead of recapping something, I just give my thoughts on something. So here we go. Gabby and Rachel, the Bachelorettes, thoughts and musings 1. It's week 3 as when I wrote this. It was Monday night when I wrote this. And I've absorbed a lot of media talking about it. I saw the tweet by Deja Talks TV on both Twitter and TikTok, talking about how they've never seen a lead look more like they've explored the body of their co-lead before. And I was like, hey, can I use this in a YouTube video? And they were very gracious enough to be like, yeah. And so I don't really have any thoughts about that. I do. I think it's very clear. I referenced Game of Roses, and Game of Roses is adamant that we are seeing two people who, in the most generous interpretation, are just friends, and at the most, distrusting of the show's process. Is these aren't even friends, these are just two people who were just this is gonna be your story angle for this season, the two best friends that were snubbed. I don't know quite where I fall on either of these. Were they fucking, or were they just homies? Are they just two people who Clayton and Eckerd both fucked and then broke up with at the same time, being treated as a pair, which Bachelor production has continued to do? But I do know that they are being played off of one another in a way that I think is trying to bridge a gap. I think that Gabby and Rachel are the two different burgeoning fan groups of Bachelor Nation. Bachelor Nation purists, where a woman named Rachel, Lauren, or Catherine / Katie get on the show. They are a brunette of medium to slim build, medium height to slim build, gets on the show and peruses through between 25 and 30 men. She is kind and sweet and doe-eyed, an innocence that is both strong, independent woman and also someone who is a hopeless romantic looking for love and is open to love from anyone and all things. But, you know, no uggos, no fatties, barely any Asian men, and don't have any facial piercings, don't have any complicated conversations about race on TV. You know, we had in the past 2 years, you know, Bachelor production was able to take some risks with the oldest Bachelorette being Claire Crowley, and her person of color heavy men choice switching to Tayshia, our second Black Bachelorette, but still picking a Black Bachelorette that is very light and appeals to the fandom. I talked about in one of my thoughts and musings about, God, I cannot remember her name. She was the Olympian, and how she just wasn't going to play well with Bachelor Nation and with, you know, being picked as Clayton's pick, because they say they want strong, independent women, and they either do one of two things. They break them, or they were never that strong and independent in the first place. They were just little moblets to get a storyline across. And I think we find that, I'm sorry, we're tracing our steps through Bachelor Nation, is Tayshia. And then we had our back-to-back Bachelorette seasons with Katie and, God, I was just thinking about her. Michelle Young, another mixed race. You know, even though Michelle's about my skin tone, she's still relatively light in the grand scheme of things. Mixed race woman who is soft and kind. She gives off the strong, independent woman because she don't take no shit. But, you know, she's not like Gabby, and that is the point. Rachel represents that soft woman, and Rachel and Gabby is snarky, funny, relatable, kind of mean-spirited. She doesn't, you know, she's not letting these men walk all over her. I noticed that there's kind of this understanding that Bachelor Nation is still upholding patriarchal values. That even if it's a woman who is quote-unquote in charge of finding love in between all these men, she's still going to laugh at their jokes and let them pull out the chair, and she's going to let them talk and have their time. Rachel is not. Gabby is not. Gabby physically cannot control her face. She shouldn't. She does not want, if she's not having a good time, she's just not going to, you know, give you the time of day. It's very, you know, it's refreshing to see Gabby kind of be mean to the men, and not in like a negging kind of way or a misandrous kind of way, but in a way that you would actually be if you were speed dating a couple of men, and then one of them pulls out a slideshow and is like, this is how we'd say it, and then gives you a nickname without your consent. I hated that guy. I truly hated that guy. I cannot remember if he's here or not. No, you're literally a personification of everything I think that is wrong with Boston. But Gabby isn't, I think Gabby could have carried a season. I think both women could carry a season by themselves. However, I don't think it would have been a popular season. I think Rachel would have been seen as a safe and boring choice on her own. And I think there would have been calls for Gabby to have been the Bachelorette because, you know, she was stylish and hot. She dresses so well. She's so attractive by clothing alone in some aspects. It's iconic. I love Gabby's style of seeing. I love seeing her personal style reach in past the style coordinator Carrie. Olivia L at Olivia Lane 6 on TikTok is always talking about The Bachelor, and I love seeing how you can see Gabby's personal style pushing through whatever hot nonsense Carrie is putting them in. Absolutely adore the fact that if they're gonna do one thing these last 3 weeks, it is put Rachel in a one-shouldered, asymmetrical, dress that is tight thigh-length dress. They are consistent with their dressing of Rachel. But I think Gabby is too modern for where they want to go. I think having having Gabby as our lead would have opened her up to aggressive misogyny. Because I don't spend a lot of time on Bachelor Twitter because I don't hate myself. The people who I follow who are there are always super kind and reasonable people. But there's always going to be a hater-ass, wasp-ass bitch who's going to say some misogynist shit about the lead. And it astounds me that these tend to be women have absolutely no... They have no idea, they have no understanding that someone could be all the right things, you know? A man could be the sweetest plum in the basket, but if the lead doesn't like plums, then that man's not for her. And yet, the moment these leads let a man go, they are ready to spew out the most misogynist, conspiracy-laden bullshit you've ever heard. And I was not on Bachelor Twitter until Katie's season, because I knew it was going to be back-to-back Katie, Michelle, and I wanted to see the difference between how the communities interacted. And what it really ended up being is Michelle's season was actually a much more overall positive experience because so many people were like, I'm not watching. And so the people who were watching and who were talking about it were much kinder and much more reasonable in their language, whereas Katie, the moment she got rid of anyone, her getting rid of Greg, you would have assumed that Greg leaving and her response to Greg leaving and her discussion at the reunion, she had sent home the Pope and had called the Pope a bad actor. Bestie, it's some dude on TV trying to get social media famous. It is not that deep. But the moment that these young women open themselves up to being scrutinized, this older batch of Bachelor fans that are vocal and loud on Twitter, because obviously I can't speak for whatever's happening on a Bachelor Facebook page. You could not pay me to go there. TikTok, very quiet on the Bachelor front. Bachelor data, obviously Olivia Lane. Fantake is sometimes there. It's just not there as far as the hashtags. A couple of months ago, and obviously it could have changed at this point. I might check. But if you check the Bachelor hashtag on TikTok, I think it was under 1 million back in March. The last time I made a TikTok about it in April, I think it was at maybe 2 million. A show that has been on for 22 seasons and is supposedly beloved, I know it's going down in the ratings, but it's really dying. And their like last flail of relevancy is Gabby. But I don't think that they could have given her the season alone, because you would have had an entire wall of women. Every time she didn't laugh at a joke, every time she crinkled her face up at a magician, there would be a barrage, a paragraph of bullshit coming from that section of the fandom. I have some words written. Gabby is just such a good dresser, and she's beloved by younger female fans. Her shots laying with the dog and all that. Being a good face reaction, relatable, and being just sharp. She's great television. And maybe she's too close to the recent Katie Thurston. I would again say that I think Katie's the closest that we've had to a strong independent woman through the advertising, and less to do with whatever. But as of right now, she's kind of been dwindled back into being like Caitlin Bristow, or Hannah Brown, being very soft. I would say Hannah Brown and Gabby radiate the same energy. Less so than I think Hannah Brown and Susie obviously radiated the same energy. So I think picking a top girl instead of a 5th place finish like Katie is a better choice. And I think the issue with Gabby is that she is mean to the men, obviously. The Bachelor kind of feeds on this idea that they are kind of girl bossing so hard. These women tend to be they are girl bossing so hard, but these girls tend to be mystified by the men. They're, sitting there, Rachel sitting next to a man while he, lifts her up and does squats. Again, the guy with the whiteboard explaining Bostonian phrases and him saying, gabbers, and while she's just like, no, I don't care. This is stupid. I think is very indicative of the juxtaposition between older fans and newer fans of the series. Like, truly, Rachel is a sit and smile while they chat, and Gabby is really into it. She's quite introspective, talking about her ability to be a good mother, a good lover, a good mom, a good friend, and if she's not feeling that, it's gotta go. It's go time. I don't really have an answer outright on what I think this means. I do think that it shows that ABC Bachelor is kind of floundering a little bit. I think they could have been a little more confident in their choice to just pick Gabby, but I'd rather them do that than send someone out to the wolves of the fandom. Like they kind of did with Matt James, just sending out a black bachelor and being like, it's the same, but in black. And then opening it up to bullshit. They pick someone that the fandom, the younger fans, are excited about. And I think that's a good choice. I think the double crowning has to be a band-aid over the lesion of Matt James and Clayton Echard. A set of leads that would bring up a set of leads that led to down ratings and just general feelings in the fandom. I've watched every episode since Nick Viall, and the vibes around the fandom have changed. The Bachelor, it's so much more negative. It's like being aware of someone is dying. And they're aware that they're dying as well, but, I mean, what do you do with the dead body? It's sad for them, but it's also just like, the fandom has changed, and I don't think Bachelor production knows how to change with Bachelor Nation. I don't think turning into Love Island or Love is Blind is going to help, especially because those shows are toxic in their own right, and I don't think making yourself more doubly toxic is really going to help things. But they're trying to play catch up, and they have this double season to attempt to do so. Honestly, I really like them as leads. They're super fun. The idea of moving through these men quickly has upped the ante. Part of the reason I didn't want to do recaps is I feel very unsure of how things are going. I feel like I knew things. When, I looked at my top 10 from Clayton's season. I had it in the bag. I knew I had Gabby. I think by week 4 or 5, I had Gabby, Rachel, and Susie in my top 3. At least top 5, and moving around our little lying miscreant from Clayton's season. I don't know where this is going. I think partially because you're trying to figure out whose screen time means to which player and how things are gonna go, and if there's gonna be 2 fantasy suites or if it's just one per girl. We don't know. And so I'm sitting back and I'm relearning this game before I can make any assumptions about anything. Because I don't know if you've paid attention to any other Bachelor content, people making their guesses, but both Fantake and Gore had people who were, who, due to how things are shot, looked like they were shoo-ins, and then they were immediately sent home. I mean, no one thought Roby was gonna go anywhere, but I really do think it was a big, huge change shakeup that the twins didn't go anywhere, because there's one thing that production loves, and it's 2 people that share a womb at the same time fighting for the same person romantically, and when they could not get that out of there, and I think that really shook up some stuff. So I don't know where we're going. I have no clue. I'm just along for the ride. I'm curious to see how they treat Gabby and Rachel. Subscribe for more No Niches, No Gods. Bow. More. Me. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Megan_Blush. Yeah. Alright. Bye.